It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks for joining me this morning. If this is your first time tuning into this program, this is where we talk about all things real estate here in the Charleston area. I like to take my experience as somebody that's been in the top 1% of this market since 2009. I've been doing this for a decade now. So I like to share my experiences, help you become more informed when it comes to all things housing, share some local stats with you, share some experiences and stories that I have. And all of this is done just to make you a more informed consumer so that if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, you have some real information to go off of, and hopefully you're a little smarter when it comes to housing than when you first tuned in. So if at any point in time you'd like to reach out to me, I do this show on Saturdays at 9 and Sundays at 10, and love the opportunity to get in front of y'all and share those experiences. But I'm also a real estate agent outside of that. So if there's anything that I can do from a real estate perspective, please give me a call. My number personally is 843-345-1273. Or you can visit my website, which we've just redone. It looks really nice. Listingsincharleston.com is the website. You can go there, learn more about me, search the MLS. Anything for sale is on that website. And if you're thinking about selling your house, which we're going to talk about a little later on this program, then click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn more about what I do to market my properties for sale, see a list of everything I've sold. And then, of course, you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee. I'll sell your home in less than 2 months, or I'll sell it for half my commissions. So listingsincharleston.com is the website to go to for that. Let me give you an idea of what I want to talk about over the next hour. This is our first show of 2016. We're live in the studio, so we're taking your calls this morning. The number here, 843-556-1250, 843-556-1250. Anything you want to discuss real estate related, feel free to give us a call. We'd love the opportunity to help you along with either sharing some information, answering questions, or of course you want to get very specific, you can contact me off air. Again, that number, 843-345-1273 or listingsincharleston.com. So I'm joined in the studio this morning by Andrew Muller with Mappus Insurance. He's been on the program a lot over the past few years. Andrew, say hello.
Good morning, Brian.
We're going to talk about a really fun topic. What happens when your tenant catches your property on fire? So we're going to talk about that in just a second, and the headache that I had to go through due to a tenant's misstep with regard to a grease fire in her kitchen. So much fun. But then a little later on in the program, we're going to talk about, I'm getting this question all the time right now. When is the best time to list my house so that I can sell it for the most money and sell it in the least amount of time? And I'm going to dive really deep into that question. I'm going to help you guys understand why my answer might be different from some other real estate agent's answer. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about activity in the market overall. There's a lot going on in our market right now, and I want to share that with you. And then finally, a little later on in the program, we're going to talk about, in my mind at least, the key to recovery in our market. And when I say recovery, I don't mean to tell you that we're still in a slump, but there's one segment of our market that really needs our help right now. And we need their help to push this market along, and that's the first-time home buyer market. So we're going to talk about that at the very end of the program. But now, let's dive into the wonderful story that I've lived over the past few weeks, which is having a tenant catch one of my rental properties on fire. So, Andrew, you're my insurance agent. You've been on this program a bunch. I called you up because a tenant was cooking in her kitchen. She had a grease fire. Guess what she did to try and put the fire out?
She probably tried throwing water on it.
She threw water on it. Just escalated the situation, caught a bunch of stuff on fire. Luckily, the fire was contained to a small corner of the kitchen, so the actual fire damage wasn't too extensive. There is some stuff that definitely needs to be replaced, but the smoke damage is really the major issue because it permeated throughout the entire unit. So we're looking at, all said and done, about a $7,500 job to get all this stuff fixed. And so I'm going to kind of hand it over to you because, you know the process start to finish. I mean, from my perspective, the tenant caused the damage. The tenant's at fault. tenant should be responsible for fixing it. So
Sure.
I'm going to hand it over to you. But for anybody listening, insurance-related questions as we're going through this story, don't hesitate to stop us and call and ask your question or share a story. 843-556-1250 is the number here in the studio. So, Andrew, take it away.
Sure. Well, before I actually get going on that, as I was sitting here, I was looking at your new website. It is very, very cool.
Oh, thank you.
And I just found a house that I want to buy. But I don't know if my wife wants to move to Ondaw just yet.
Oh, man. I've got some nice ones out there.
There are some good properties on there. But anyway, so, well, first off, kudos to you for making sure your client had renter's insurance.
Yes.
That is very important. That's a step that many people don't ever ask their tenants, or they might require it but never follow up on it. So it's very important for that. But so the way that this claim kind of happened, certainly you described that the kitchen somewhat caught on fire, but most of the damage was smoke. Mm-hmm. And that's what typically happens. You contain the fire, but the smoke and the soot gets all into the HVAC system and into the ductwork, and it can really do a lot of damage to clothes, to the carpet, to everything in the house, in the walls. It gets in the walls. You can't get that smoke smell out. So it's not just an easy fix. So the way that renters' policies work and tenants is that they will only cover certain types of losses. So luckily, fire is one of those losses. So there are 3 types of losses a tenant policy will cover: fire, smoke, and explosions.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind. Even if you do require your tenant to carry insurance, it might not be covered under their policy, or they might not be willing to pay it. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, the tenant's policies, the way that they normally read, is that they only want to pay actual cash value.
Right.
So you're sitting in a situation where you own this property, it was damaged by your tenant, and it's going to cost you, say, $10,000 to replace everything. The renter's policy only wants to pay you $7,000. So now you're out $3,000. There's a gap in there. And for your situation, those weren't the exact figures, but I was able to assist, get on the phone with the adjuster of the other company and get you more money.
Right.
And
right.
so, and to fill that gap.
Right. And so I want to be clear on what my requirements are for my rental properties, because I have a property manager, and thankfully they did a great job. As soon as this happened, I was informed. I actually, before hiring the property manager, put a tenant in place. It's a triplex that I own. And the triplex has had some issues over the years, but I've had a tenant that's lived there for 4 years. And she called me up, and she let me know as soon as it happened. She called the property management company. The communication was fantastic. But the point is, the property management company that I hired to watch over this property has a requirement as a part of the lease that the tenant carries renter's insurance, which is incredibly important. They will not sign the lease, or they won't execute the lease until everything is in place. It's really easy to say, hey, you need to go get renter's insurance, and then never follow up on it. And then, of course, guess what? They don't want to spend that money, so they don't get it. And then something like this happens. You have an $8,000 issue on your hands, and who's going to pay for it? The tenant or you? Well, if they don't have the ability to pay for it through insurance, they sure as heck don't have $8,000 laying around. Mm-hmm. So that means you get left with the bill. And for us, I think my deductible was what, $2,500?
Correct.
So they're only going to give me the amount of money that they think is appropriate based on the depreciation of the upgrades within the unit. So in other words, Andrew was saying that if there's a $10,000 quote from a contractor to fix everything, the insurance company is only going to pay me $7,500 because they say the things that I have in my unit are old. They're applying depreciation to it. Well, guess what? I can't put up used paint when I fix the unit. I can't put up a depreciated kitchen. That's not how it works for me. And then on top of that, I have $2,500 in my deposit or whatever to
deductible.
Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. In order to put that process in motion. So Andrew was incredibly key in helping me through that so that I don't have to come out of pocket at all, which is the way it should be. I didn't cause the fire. I shouldn't be required to come out of pocket to fix her mistake. It was a mistake. I get it. But I don't want to be held liable, and I don't want to be held with, the bag.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, I understand that you have some tips to give some people as it relates to insurance, and I'd like for you to go through that list. And again, if you're listening, if you have questions, you have a story you want to share, 843-556-1250 is the number here in the studio.
Yeah. So I'm going to go on a little rant here, and this doesn't just apply to claims. This is just rental properties in general. So if you own a rental property or are thinking about purchasing a property as an investment, listen up, because these are all very important tips, but they all relate to the insurance. And the first thing, I almost feel like I shouldn't say it, but I have to, and that's know your policy. Know what it is you're buying. We constantly review policies of people that have quote unquote rental properties, and they're just written terrible. So know your policy. Specifically, make sure it is written as a tenant occupied policy. A lot of people, they might purchase a home and live in it, and then they want to upgrade to a new property, and then they say, oh, well, let's keep that property as a rental. And then they keep the insurance the exact same. They don't tell anyone. Well, you are majorly jeopardizing any coverage there. So that's very important that the insurance policy is written as a tenant-occupied policy. Number 3, who owns it? Do you own it, or did you establish an LLC to own it? Maybe a family trust owns it. Whoever owns it, that policy needs to be in that name. So if you have it, or if you changed the ownership, and let your agent know. So if you purchased the property under your name and then you moved it to an LLC, but that insurance policy is still in your name, there could be an issue come claim time. You need to make sure that policy is written in the proper name, because insurance companies, they can be great, but we've all heard horror stories on the insurance company wouldn't pay this or that. Well, technically, if they go by the policy and that name is wrong, they don't technically have to owe you anything. So just in a way to remove that is just put it in the right name.
Right.
So that's number 3. Number 4, we've already gone over this, but make sure the tenant has renter's insurance. And a few reasons for that. If they're responsible for an issue that happens at the house, both liability and property damage, we want to make sure that we can subrogate back against them, or that your insurance company as the property owner can subrogate back against the tenant. Number 5, claims. Just understand the claims process. Everything's about price until a claim happens. And then it's about coverage and about, I want to be with a good company. So understand the claims process, know the number to call, or just call your agent and just know the process. Who's the adjuster that's going to be involved? Is it with the company, or is it a third-party adjuster? Just ask your agent some of these questions. And number 6, this is really not it's partially an insurance-related tip, and that's related to taxes. But if you own a rental property or an investment property, and you by chance are allowing your children to live in this property, maybe put them on the title, and by doing that, you can get primary residency status, and then your taxes will significantly go down. But then from the insurance perspective, you're opening up so many more opportunities to go to for options. Because again, when you have a rental property and it's tenant occupied, you have to go with a tenant occupied policy that covers those particular exposures. And there are not that many companies that will do that, or there are just a lot more if it's primary owner occupied. And so if we can if your child's on that title and they're a resident, well, that's a primary property. And we can go out to so many more companies and get far better coverage at a better rate. And we did this just this week, and we estimated, we don't know what the guy's taxes will be completely, but we estimated between the tax savings and the insurance savings, we're going to save them over $5,000 a year. And something that we brought up as the insurance agent, just bringing it up to him, and he's going with it, and he was so thankful for it. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Six topics, tips to take. If you want to go to mappusinsurance.com, I'll have that up there. If you want to take that and print it off and review it to see if you can use any of those tips.
Great. Well, thanks again, Andrew Muller of Mappus Insurance. We're going to take a break. Don't hesitate to call into the studio if you have any questions, insurance or real estate related. 556-1250 is the number here in the studio. And again, I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Feel free to call me, 345-1273, or go to listingsincharleston.com. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back on the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, and thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Been doing this for this will be my fourth year on this program, and always like to take a little bit of time every program just to say thank you to those of you that tune into this program and learn more about real estate, learn a little bit more about me and how I approach it. The goal of this show is very simple. It's just to help you become more informed with regard to real estate. I am not the kind of guy that is the rah-rah, tell you anything you want to hear to earn your business type of guy. I'm a very blunt and straightforward person when it comes to our housing market, because one thing that I've learned about myself in doing this program is that I have become extremely weary of the information that's shared with the public when it comes to information about housing. At the end of the day, I'm a real estate agent. I'm in sales, okay? It's my job to sell real estate to support myself and my family and my company that I've built. But it has to be done with the information being accurate, truthful, and in no way, shape, or form misconstrued so that it's more about my commission than it is about accomplishing your goals. So that's the passion that I like to try and transcend to any client that I work with, is that I'm here to accomplish your goals, not mine. So if there's anything I can do for you, whether it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, or just answering a general knowledge question, I'm here to help. That's what this program is all about. But feel free to contact me personally. My number is 843-345-1273, or you can go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. Take a look at what we have for sale on there. Every property for sale in the MLS is on that website. You can learn more about me. You can see a list of everything I've sold. And if you're thinking about selling your house, which is what we're going to talk about right now, click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee. You can also learn more about my communication guarantee, the marketing that I do for my properties, so on and so forth. So listingsincharleston.com is the website to go to. And of course, I'm still in the studio here with Andrew Muller of Mappus Insurance. So if you have any questions for us, we're taking your calls live. The number here, 843-556-1250. So the two biggest questions that I'm getting right now, this time of year, are, I want to sell my house. When is the best time to do that? Or number two, I tried selling my house last year and it didn't work. When should I put it back on the market? And so I thought I'd dive a little bit deeper into this question. The answer, quite honestly, is it depends, and it depends on several things. For me, when someone asks me that question, the first thing I need to do is I need to find out more information about the house, and I need to do some research on the external factors that are going to impact your ability to sell your home. So I look at things like the average days on market. I look at the month's supply of inventory, which is a function of everything available for sale divided by the number of homes selling on a monthly average. It gives us an idea of how healthy your specific market is. Let's say you want to sell a home in Mount Pleasant between $300,000 and $400,000. I'm going to look at everything in that particular subsection of our market so that I can draw from it some conclusions on how long is it going to take to sell. Historically, when is the best time to list? And above all else, what does the current competition look like? Because that has the biggest impact on your ability to sell now versus at some point in the future. So I look at all of those things. The most important of which, though, really is the month's supply of inventory. Everybody always thinks that the days on market is the most important thing to look at. And if you look at everything last year in 2015, the average days on market as the months went by got lower and lower and lower and lower. January, we were at like 79 days on average to sell a home. And then by October, we were at 56 days. It just kept getting lower and lower. So that's interesting to look at because it takes into account the seasonality of our market. Obviously, everybody's been coached to think that you just list your house in the spring. That's the best time to sell your house is the spring. That's when most buyers are out there. And that's true. But that's also when everybody else lists their home for sale, so you have more competition. The difference between the number of ready, willing, and able buyers right now versus April is not as significant as the number of sellers that will hit the market between now and April. So in other words, in my mind, yes, you have more buyers in April, but you have a lot more competition, especially in certain segments of our market. So that's why I think it makes sense to look at the month's supply of inventory, your competition. If you look at December of 2014, we were at a little over 5 months worth of inventory, which is just barely a seller's market. An average balanced market is 6 to 8 months worth of inventory, meaning if no other home hit the market starting today, it would take 6 to 8 months to sell off the existing inventory. That's what we call a balanced market. There's no upward or downward pressure on pricing. Pricing just remains fairly consistent in line with inflation. But if you go to November, we were at 3.8 months worth of inventory. So the number of homes available is shrinking and the number of homes being sold is increasing. Now, the really cool thing that I have at my disposal is every property that's shown in our market, or 99% of the properties that are shown in our market, go through a third-party company called Showing Time. So we have a company that all real estate agents in the MLS use, and we outsource the process of showing our homes to that company. So if I were showing buyers property this weekend, I would call this company and say, hey, I want to see these 5 addresses at these times, and then that company will call the sellers, they'll schedule everything, and then they'll get back to me with my confirmed appointments or my rescheduled or whatever. So the cool thing about that is this company tracks all of the showings in our market. So I get to see how many showings there are in certain price ranges, in certain areas, and I can give that analysis to my clients to give them a very real expectation on how many showings they should be getting on a weekly or monthly average. Isn't that helpful?
Yeah.
Do agents provide that to their sellers? No. I don't know why, but they don't. So I know for a fact that over the past 30 days, if you were listed between $100,000 and $150,000, you were getting 5 to 6 showings per month. A little over a showing a week. And that should be the minimum if you want to sell your house. So I have this report. I am happy to share it with you. Go to listingsincharleston.com and just say, hey, Brian, send me that report showing the number of showings per price range. Or if you want to know what's going on in your specific area, your specific price range, I'm happy to run an analysis for you. No cost, no obligation. I'm also happy to provide you with my opinion of value. It's called a broker price opinion. So listingsincharleston.com is the website to go to. And if you're curious about selling your house, either you've tried selling it in the past and it didn't work, or you just want to put it on the market for the first time now, let's have a discussion about that so that we can prepare ourselves, set the best expectation possible, and then also get your first impression. And Andrea, did you want to say something?
I did. As you're talking about trying to prepare the seller and get their expectations set, and as well as coming up with the pricing, a lot of people don't think about the insurance, specifically the flood insurance. And so many sellers, I feel like, are not prepared with flood insurance, specifically with older properties. We'll have buyers asking us about flood insurance on this property, and I'll ask them for the elevation certificate and what the current buyers are paying, and they have no idea, and that factors in to the selling price. I mean, if somebody has a home, an older home built, say, in 1960, it's in an AE flood zone, and they own it outright and they've never had flood insurance, and then there's a buyer out there that's going to get a loan, they're going to be required to carry flood insurance. Well, if you go to that seller and ask them what their insurance costs are, they might say $2,000 a year. But for that buyer, knowing that situation, it could be an additional $1,500 a year just for flood insurance. And so many people don't understand this, but that factors into number one, the buyer's purchasing power.
Sure.
But number two, the seller needs to understand what a buyer's going to be facing in that market, and so they need to price it accordingly as well. Or else you're not going to get those showings, you're not going to get those offers, and then they're wondering why their house isn't selling.
Right.
I constantly see that from my perspective on the insurance side.
Right. We always do that when we consult with sellers before we put them on the market. We go through the process of here's what the showings are going to look like. Here are the type of buyers that I think we're going to be marketing to, so on and so forth. So that's a great point, Andrew. Thanks for pointing that out. Any questions you have, feel free to give us a call. We're live in the studio. Would love to answer any questions you have, hear a story from you. The number here, 556-1250, 843-556-1250. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's going on in our market overall, just the level of activity I'm seeing right now. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Stay tuned for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
The Big Talker, WTMA.
You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, Charleston. Thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. I'm still joined in the studio by Andrew Muller of Mappus Insurance. We're taking your calls this morning, so anything real estate related you'd like to discuss, call into the studio, 843-556-1250. Maybe you have an insurance-related question. Maybe you're thinking about selling your house. You tried selling your house and it didn't work. You have a success story. You have a story you want to share that didn't go so well. Anything at all you'd like to discuss real estate related, give us a call, 843-556-1250. Now, if you want a personal conversation with me, you're thinking about hiring me as a real estate agent, feel free to call my cell phone, 843-345-1273. That's 345-1273. Or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, and you can look at everything I have for sale, everything I've sold. You can learn more about me, and if you're thinking about selling your house, click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. I'll sell your home in less than 2 months, or I'll sell it for half my commission. And I'll tell you one quick success story before we move on to the next topic here. Because last segment we talked about when's the right time to list my home. I had somebody contact me that had their home on the market for almost 15 months with 2 different agents. They were getting showings, they were getting activity, but they just couldn't get it sold. And so I took over the listing. I applied a very different marketing package. We did professional photography. We did professional videography. We did a really cool drone video because the property was on a waterfront street that overlooked the Charleston. So we did a drone video. It just looked really cool. But we ended up selling that house in 6 weeks. And we actually listed it for more than what the previous agent had it listed for. So I'm getting all these calls right now about people saying, hey, Brian, we're thinking about putting our house on the market. When should we do it? And should we do it at all? I think the answer is it depends. Let's look at each individual listing. Let's look at who you're competing with. Let's look at the trends within the marketplace. And then let's analyze your particular goals. You know, I'm the first to tell you whether I think your goals are reasonable and achievable or not. There's nothing worse than having an agent tell you what you want to hear just so they get your listing, just so they can have a sign in the yard, just so they can generate leads on your behalf, regardless of whether they think your home will sell or not. So if you want some just blunt information about the industry in general or your specific home, feel free to call me, 843-345-1273, or go to listingsincharleston.com. So I want to switch gears here. I want to talk about just activity in the market in general. Usually, at the very end of the year, we don't see a ton of new contracts being written, but it's the point in time where people are off work. You know, they've taken some hard-earned time off. And if they're thinking about doing something in the first or second quarter of 2016 or the following year, guess what they're doing? They're online and they're looking at real estate. So for us as real estate agents, the very end of the year and the very beginning of the year are some of the best times to find new business. I can tell you that in December, I took 21 listings for sellers that want to sell their home in 2016, and several of them are already under contract. I tell you that to not to boast about, wow, that's a lot of business, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you that because there's a ton of activity in our market right now, and people are missing it. If sellers want to sell their house right now and they've been coached to wait until the spring, I'm telling you right now, there are buyers in this market that want to buy real estate, and they are basically being forced to wait until the spring because sellers aren't putting their home on the market. I'll give you, another classic example. I listed a property, a condo in West Ashley. He said, Brian, should we list this property right now? I was like, you have nothing else on the market in your development right now. You'd be the only one. Wait a few months, that could change drastically. And the other thing that happens when you decide to wait is that you then become susceptible to every other seller's individual situation and their own motivation to sell. You don't know if your neighbor across the hall is getting divorced and needs to sell their property in the next 2 weeks, and as a result, they're going to drive the price way down. You have no idea. So in this particular situation, we decided now was the right time. We had 8 showings the first day, 2 offers. Boom. That easy. It's not that easy all the time, but each individual property has a completely different set of circumstances that impacts whether or not it should make sense to list it now, in a few months, not at all, based on their goals, so on and so forth. So again, if I can coach you through that process and you want some information, let's just have a discussion about it. 843-345-1273 is my cell, and listingsincharleston.com if you want to contact me online. So I was telling you how there's all this activity around the end of the year. I had over 1,000 people visit my website in December from over 30 countries. Isn't that ridiculous?
That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's not. I guess it's a testament to my website and my ability to create interest for my listings, but that's a testament to Charleston itself. If we were in, Boise, Idaho or something I don't think there'd be that many people looking at Boise, Idaho. I could be wrong. It could be a great place. I've never been there. I'm just saying Charleston is a pretty awesome place to live. Yeah. And that's why we have so much interest from so many different sources, whether it be a primary residence, a second home, retirement home. We've got beach, waterfront,
all the restaurants,
just everything. It's such an awesome place to live. And that's why people are interested in this property. But we also have big industry coming here. We've got Volvo coming to Somerville, Boeing. They're going to continue to expand and be a big contributing factor to our market.
Mercedes.
It continues to grow. We have, I think the last thing I read was that we have over 50 people a day that move to Charleston. So why am I telling all of this? I'm telling you this because if you're a buyer, look, let's face it, you've already been impacted by the 0.25% increase in interest rates that we saw a few weeks ago. We also know that prices are going to go up this year. We also have been told, we don't know this for a fact, but we've been told that rent is going to go up at a faster pace than home prices. So if you're thinking about buying real estate, I think it makes sense if you have the ability to look at doing that now. I'm not here to give you pressure tactics. I'm just here to tell you that the longer you wait, the more expensive owning a home will likely become. It's not a guarantee, but that every individual piece of writing on the wall points to it being more expensive later as opposed to right now. So if you're thinking about buying a home, it makes sense to look at home ownership right now. Let's talk about that process. And if you're selling a home, same thing applies. You have the benefit of very low inventory right now, especially between now and, let's say, the end of March, when things really start to ramp up and people put their home on the market. Again, there are buyers out there. They're looking. I'm telling you this because my team of 12 people are getting bombarded with buyer leads saying, hey, I want this, I want this, I want this, and it's not out there. So we are literally calling neighborhoods. We're sending letters to neighborhoods saying, hey, would you consider selling your home to a prospect of ours? It's working well, but we're having to take the old school approach to find these listings, and we're doing that, but it'd be a heck of a lot easier if you just call me and tell me you want to sell your house. I might have a buyer for you right now. So give me a call, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. We're going to take one more break. When we come back, we're going to talk about first-time home buyers. We're going to talk about a few more insurance-related things. Again, any questions whatsoever, give us a call in the studio. We're taking your calls live. 843-556-1250 is the number here. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. One more break, and we'll be back for our final segment.
It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Broadcast Saturday mornings at 9 and Sunday mornings at 10 on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. WTMA. Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, and thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Been doing this for about 4 years now, selling real estate for about a decade. Any questions you have, we're still in the studio. Got about 10 minutes left. So the number here is 843-556-1250. 843-556-1250. I still have Andrew Muller of Mappus Insurance in the studio with me. We're happy to take your calls, answer your questions, hear your stories, and relate. So the number here, 843-556-1250. And, of course, if you'd like to contact me directly, you have some sort of real estate question, comment, or concern, or if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, feel free to call me. My number is 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, where you can look at everything I have for sale, everything I've sold. Search the MLS, and, of course, if you're thinking about selling your house, click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn more about my 59-day, 4.5% commission guarantee. I'll sell your home in less than 2 months, or I'll sell it for half my commission. So listingsincharleston.com is the website to go to. So for the last few minutes here, I wanted to talk about first-time home buyers because it's something I've focused on over the past year or so in greater detail as our market has improved. And it's really the last segment of the market to really gain steam before we are off to the races with regard to our market. And so if you think about the troubles that the first-time homebuyer market has had over the past several years, what are they? Well, it's debt. It's, getting out of student debt. The amount of debt that we've had for students has, I think, more than quadrupled over the past 15 years, which is very challenging. Number two, of course, is just the economy in general. Number three is interest rates going up by a quarter point. That's not a huge deal, but the fact that prices have gone up in some cases 25, 30% in some areas of our market over the past few years, that's a big deal, as well as a few other areas. But there was a survey that was recently done by the National Association of Realtors that said that 95% of renters 34 years or younger want to own a home in the future, and 83% of renters said that they have a desire to own in the next year, according to this survey. Now, interestingly, only half of all of the households that were polled, renters and homeowners, said that they believe the economy is currently improving, and 44% said they believe the country is actually still in a recession. That's very interesting, in my opinion. Now, according to that same survey, people who recently purchased a home found that the share of first-time buyers fell to its lowest level in almost 3 decades. That's really the major issue, is that the amount of first-time home buyers in our market right now that are actually transacting is the lowest it's been in the past 30-something years. So we need to get them back on their feet. How are we going to do that? Well, look at this statistic. In 2013, 1 in 4 renters, or approximately 11.2 million people, were paying more than half of their income in rent. Rent's not going down, in my opinion, anytime soon. In fact, it's supposed to go up faster than the increase in pricing if you're going to buy a house. So how do we get them out of this basic death spiral of renting? Well, number one, we have to have the economy improve. Most of the people that are first-time home buyers, 34 years old or younger, entered the job market a few years ago when it was very difficult to get a job. They certainly weren't getting substantial wage increases like they were several years ago. So now that the market's improving for this segment of people, and they're getting better jobs, they're making more money, the economy has more ability to pay them more money, they'll start to get on their feet, they'll start to purchase property, I have no doubt about it. But one of the other issues for first-time home buyers right now is that if they're looking in that $200,000 or less market, especially over the past few years, who is their biggest competition? Investors. investors are the ones that are gobbling up that inventory, creating multiple offer scenarios, especially if there's a property that needs some TLC. You know, you need to put some elbow grease into it, some sweat equity into it in order to be worth more money at some point in the future. That's a perfect candidate for a first-time home buyer. They buy it, it's dated, they put some work into it, it's worth more money when they go to sell it. It's very challenging to do that when you have a slew of investors, both experienced and not experienced, fighting tooth and nail for that inventory. So that's been a major issue. But I think the good news here, the silver lining, is that we have a better job market than we did several years ago. We have more people making more income than we did several years ago. And the other thing that I think is the silver lining here is the loosening of lending restrictions. You know, there was a significant move made a few weeks ago. There was a bill that was basically introduced to the House of Representatives that would basically allow Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to consider alternative credit scoring models beyond the standard FICO credit score in order to determine their credit worthiness and their ability to get a loan. So as an example, they were looking at things like, you know, credit scores could be better evaluated by using a person's rental history and their utility bill payments. That would be a huge help to first-time homebuyers. They were also looking at, you know, more loans allowing buyers to include income from room rentals or live-in parents or extended family members. Additional sources of income would be applicable to that first-time homebuyer in order to allow them to purchase property. So I think that in general, the first-time homebuyer segment of our market is still lagging right now. And once they get on their feet, you are going to see it trickle upward in every other segment of our market. Think about new construction for a second. New construction has been focusing on middle-of-the-road properties, maybe the second or third home that a family would buy, rather than the first-time homebuyer product, because the middle-of-the-road products is where all the money is. You know, all the people that are, you know, the millennials as an example, some of them are buying homes, most of them are not. Most of them are trying to get on their feet with their job. They've got an entry-level job. They just don't make enough to make sense out of home ownership, so they're staying with their family to save up money, or they're renting somewhere. Some of them obviously way overextend themselves in spending. They just have poor saving habits, which prevents them from buying a home. But there are all these different factors right now that are playing into the first-time homebuyer segment's ability to purchase property right now. And it's going to be very exciting to see this year as prices continue to go up and as rent continues to go up and as interest rates continue to go up, what individual people are going to do based on their own personal situation to start saving money and to get out of the process of renting a home and get into home ownership, assuming they have the financial ability to do so. So that's going to be on my radar for this year. And as the year goes by, I'll share that information with you. I'll let you know how it impacts our market and how it trickles upward. Because think about it, first-time home buyers purchased first-time home sellers' property so that they can go buy something else. And it just has this upward effect on property. And we all know that the upper tier of real estate right now is still in a bit of a recovery process. You know, that $1 million plus property, we still don't have a ton of buyers looking at purchasing those types of properties. We have several more than we have in the past, but that segment of our market still needs help as well. So that's, in my mind, what I'm going to be keeping an eye on this year, in addition to several other things. But Andrew, with the last minute or so of the program, is there anything else that you wanted to share?
Well, sticking on with the first-time home buyers, just my thing is get with an insurance agency that you trust. Work with an agency that's going to help educate you on insuring your home, because that first-time home, that's going to be your largest asset. You're going to need to protect that asset. So get with an agency that you trust first, and they will find you the best policy and the best price, the best deal overall. Don't just go with the cheapest thing out there. You might end up going with the cheapest, but go with that agent you trust, and that's going to educate you on what it is you're buying. Don't find out the hard way after a claim, and then you wish you would have gone to the guy down the street. So Focus on the agent that you trust, similar to the real estate agent. Go with somebody you trust and then you'll be good.
How can people reach you if they want an insurance quote?
Absolutely. So they can reach us at mappusinsurance.com, MAPPUS insurance.com, or call us 843-763-4200.
And you can reach me at 843-345-1273 or by going to listingsincharleston.com. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Thanks for tuning in and have a great weekend, Charleston.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.